So going into 2026, the talk's going to be jobs, AI, and power. That's sort of today's video. And look at the headlines from the Wall Street Journal today. Companies are outlining plans for 2026. Hiring isn't one of them. So essentially, they're not planning on hiring. Let me give you guys some more details. It says the corporate playbook for next year, don't hire. Companies are looking to stay lean in 2026 while relying on technology to take on more tasks. So basically, they need to find robots and AI to replace you, to cut costs, to keep things going. Yale recently did a management meeting with a bunch of CEOs, and they give you some numbers on what people are thinking. Are they hiring, firing, etc.? Here's the numbers. 66% of leaders surveyed said they plan to either fire workers or maintain the size of their existing teams next year. So 2/3 are saying we're either going to fire or keep the same levels of staffing, right? Then the other point would be only 1/3 indicate they plan to hire. So not many companies are going to be hiring the next year, about 1/3, at least according to this, and this would probably be more your bigger company CEOs. This is also a quote, "We're close to zero job growth. That's not a healthy labor market." This is from the Fed. He says, "When I go around and talk to CEOs around the country, everybody's telling me, quote, look, we're not hiring because we're waiting to try to figure out what happens with AI. What jobs can we replace? What jobs do we won't," right? So basically, they want to replace you if they can. That's literally what they're talking about here. You can also see this. This is Jason from the All In podcast, one of the tech bro dudes. He's like, "Told y'all, Amazon will replace their employees with robots." And certain folks on the pod laughed, and I said, I was being hysterical, right? I wasn't hysterical. I was right. Amazon is going to replace 600,000 folks, according to New York Times. And that's a lowball estimate, in my humble opinion. It's insane to think that a human will pack and ship boxes in 10 years. It's game over, folks. And he shows Amazon stock is up, right? Because I guess Wall Street likes that when you fire people, replace them with robots. And then Elon Musk chimes in and says, AI and robots will replace all jobs. Working will be optional, like growing your own vegetables instead of buying them from the store. Jason replies, exactly. The sooner we accept this reality, the better we can manage the transition. I also want to point this stuff out, guys. Much of this AI stuff is built on debt. So the idea is companies are out there raising capital, borrowing money, saying, hey, we're all going to get rich. We're going to build data centers to replace people. And it may or may not work out. I'll just say this. If you do replace a bunch of people, you're going to have massive civil unrest because people won't have jobs. People won't have money. People won't be able to put food on the table. And Elon Musk, though, is saying, no, guys, you're all going to be rich. Listen to his point of view on this stuff.
If you say, like, in the long term, where will things end up? Long term, I don't know what long term is. Maybe it's 10, 20 years, something like that. For me, that's long term. My prediction is that work will be optional. Optional. So
we'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. If you want to work, in the same way, like you can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables in your backyard, but some people still do it because they like growing vegetables.
So one of the things that you can hear who Elon's talking to, he's like, work's just going to be optional, just like video games, just like sports. He's basically talking to a bunch of young dudes who want to lay on their couch and I guess play, because the idea would be, hey, if you have a choice, would you rather go to a job or would you rather home play video games or go out and throw football? It's like, I definitely want to, stay home and just play video games and be rich. Thank you, Elon. You're awesome. How can I invest in your company? That's essentially what this ends up being.
That will be what work is like, optional. It's kind of interesting. And my guess is, if you go out long enough, assuming there's a continued improvement in AI and robotics, which seems likely, the money will stop being relevant at some point in the future. Currency becomes irrelevant. But AI and humanoid robots will actually eliminate poverty. And Tesla won't be the only one that makes them. I think Tesla will pioneer this, but there will be many other companies that make humanoid robots. But there is only basically one way to make everyone wealthy, and that is AI and robotics.
So according to Elon, the only way to make everyone wealthy is AI and robotics. And by the way, I'm selling you a robot. Please buy my robot. My robots are awesome and you're all going to be rich. I mean, it's obviously a con, anyone who pays attention. But sadly, people actually fall for this crap because they're like, oh, wow, Elon said I could just have a choice. Do I play video games? Do I go out and play sports? Or do I go to my job, which is optional? Well, I'm going to choose video games. Now, I want to give you another point of view on this. This is James Tallarico talking about people like an Elon. And listen, it's actually quite interesting, his point of view.
My tradition, as well as the Jewish tradition, warn us about the dangers of concentrated wealth and power. And this is throughout our scriptures. And so I think it's incumbent upon people of faith, particularly Christians, to call out this greed, to call out this corruption. And you're right, it's not harmless. It hurts people every day. I said recently, the reason poverty exists is not because we can't feed the poor, it's because we can't satisfy the rich. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Elon Musk becoming the first ever trillionaire. And you're exactly right. This is a spiritual sickness. Because what leads a person to accumulate more money than they could possibly spend in 100 lifetimes when we have people starving in this one? And so I don't mean to demonize these billionaires. In fact, I think taxing this kind of wealth, taxing trillionaires out of existence is not just good for all of us, it's also good for them.
I agree.
We have to protect them from themselves.
So I gave you two different points of view on this. First was Elon, dude, you're all going to be rich. We're all going to have a bunch of robots and work is optional, right? That's the future he goes on. And he says the only way to eliminate poverty is with my robots that, oh, by the way, I'm selling you. James' point of view, which you just saw, is a different point of view. It's like, hey, the reason why we have, inequalities and poverty is basically we can't satisfy greedy individuals like Elon Musk. And so you have to evaluate these two things and just figure out for yourself, what do you think? Do you trust Elon or do you trust James in this situation? Are you somewhere in the middle? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that one in the comments. I do want to show you, though, because this is going to be a continuing issue. And in fact, Bernie Sanders was talking about that today in the Sunday shows, talking about data centers. Listen to what he has to say.
We're seeing data centers sprouting all over the country, raising electric bills for people in the communities, etc. I think we need to be thinking seriously about a moratorium on these data centers. Frankly, I think you got to slow this process down. It's not good enough for the oligarchs to tell us it's coming, you adapt. What are they talking about? They're going to guarantee health care to all people? What are they going to do when people have no jobs? What are they going to do, make housing free? So I think we need to take a deep breath, and I think we need to slow this thing down. One way to do it would probably be a moratorium on data centers.
So that'd be the question then, are we really going to pause construction of all of these data centers? And in fact, someone wrote in the comments in our community recently saying that in their area, data centers create like this sort of, sound or hum in the region. And it's making it so that if you have a house near these things, that you can't sell your house because no one wants to buy a house near the data center, which actually it's interesting because I hadn't heard that one before, but it makes perfect sense. Along with, your electricity rates may be going up. And then I want to show you this. So this is a picture of what these data centers look like. You can see it right there. And this person writes, this is Peter. Peter says, hyperscale data centers, massive facilities powering artificial intelligence are reshaping America's landscape and energy systems. These gigawatt scale campuses often resemble vast warehouses. And I just wanted to show you kind of what they look like. And if you guys have one in your neighborhood, let me know. They're all over the USA these days. And in fact, this is an interesting chart that someone was sharing here. World's data centers as of November 2025. And basically a lot of them are in USA. So according to this number, I've heard different numbers on this one. This one's saying in USA there's 4,995 data centers. I've heard getting upward to 5,500, something in that realm. It's probably around that. Then you got, 3,476 in Europe. You got a bunch in Asia, a couple thousand, and then some other countries have about 500. So the USA does have the bulk of these things. And it's kind of funny because Trump and his people are always like, oh, we got to, build more of these things because we can't let China beat us. But at least according to this chart, it looks like that USA has quite a lot of data centers. This is more. Evidently, with building all these data centers, we're going to need a lot of power, which isn't hard to figure out here. You can see, we see the risk of power shortfall for U.S. data centers. So the power needed, that's that blue line there. And then you have the shortfall, which is the red. So basically there's a gap, as you can see. Elizabeth Warren is also talking about this today. Again, data centers and power. Have a listen to what she has to say.
Wondering why your utility bills have gone up recently?
AI could be a big reason why. Running AI data centers requires an enormous amount of energy. So tech companies and utility companies are spending billions of dollars updating our electric grids just to keep up. And guess who's footing the bill for the cost of keeping these data centers running? Well, could be you. Recent reports show that tech companies are passing on the costs of operating AI data centers to local communities. So you could be bankrolling these trillion-dollar companies at the same time that state governments are trying to get a grip on this, because it affects the communities that these data centers are physically in. Trump just signed an executive order targeting state laws that protect people from these tech giants. So instead of lowering your utility costs, Donald Trump is working with CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos to let their tech companies drive up your utility costs. And that's why I'm calling out big tech on this and pressing for some accountability here, because your electricity bill shouldn't be padding big tech's profits.
And I want you to think about the whole system here, okay? So if a data center is going to come to your neighborhood, do you want to give tax minutes for that? And what is the benefits for you? Well, I guess you can have more AI songs and AI footage and AI videos on YouTube. I guess if you want that. And I showed you guys before recently, it was DeSantis saying like, let's not pretend that all this AI content that we're seeing is going to make for some sort of utopia. Like, let's get real on this stuff. And it's interesting because, Elizabeth Warren is from the Democrat side. Here's another guy. He's on the Republican side in Michigan running for governor. And listen to his point of view on this stuff. So this is a two-party issue where they're both talking about it.
You saw what happened today with the Michigan Public Service Commission, but they conditionally approved contracts for a 1.4 gigawatt data center in Saline Township. 1.4 gigawatts. What does that mean? That is the equivalent energy of 1 million homes. That means that this data center is built, it is going to use more energy and more power than the entire city of Detroit. They also made this decision ex parte, which meant that it was completely one-sided and they completely shut the opposition out of the process. That is wrong. This is one of the biggest issues I'm hearing about on the campaign trail right now. A couple days ago, I wrote an opinion piece in the Detroit News, and frankly, it lays out demands that I believe we ought to have for these data centers. Number one, let's end the corporate welfare. They don't need tax breaks. They don't need tax subsidies. When I was in the legislature, I voted against these. Again, let's end the corporate welfare. They don't need them. Number two, Michigan has the highest energy rates in the entire Midwest. We have to make 100% certain that these data centers are not going to drive up our energy costs or our energy rates. And frankly, fast tracking this process is not the answer. And third, government needs to be transparent. These local governments have signed non-disclosure agreements, which means these local communities have no idea who's going to be building these data centers. They have no idea who's going to be owning these data centers. They have been completely shut out of the process.
So I want you to hear all these points of views because this gets quite complicated when you talk about all of the issues together. And remember, Trump doesn't want local states or local communities issuing any kind of regulations. From Trump's point of view, well, someone gave me a bunch of money and they promised me we're all going to be rich. Maybe it would have been Elon, maybe someone else. And then therefore, you all got to have the one rule. No, seriously, what Trump signed an executive order on. And it's interesting to see both, Democrat side, Republican sides pushing back on this stuff, because I think a lot of local voters, they see the same stuff that you and I see, to where like companies aren't hiring. Companies are literally saying, as I showed you in the beginning with the Wall Street Journal, we're just waiting to see which jobs can replace, which jobs can, we get to automate. And I want to show you some more regarding the power thing, because this is also from Michigan, which is essentially, this is a big issue there with them and the data centers, because we're talking about some bigger ones going in. This is from their attorney general. Listen to what she has to say.
For me, in terms of what my job is as Attorney General, is I am the top consumer protector in the state, and we actually have statutory authority to intervene in all ratepayer cases. So it's my job to make sure that if the utilities are asking for rate increases, that those increases are appropriate and proper. And what we're saying in regard to this massive project, remember it's at 1.4 gigawatts. I mean, that's enormous. It's enough to power a city of 1 million people. We want to make sure that DTE is not going to place that rate increase potentially squarely on the backs of its customers. And so that's why, I am urging people, there is a Michigan Public Service Commission meeting that is on the 18th, and we think that DTE is going to try to rush this through without having a contested hearing.
And so now that's the ultimate question that I want to ask you is, do you want your taxpayer dollars? Do you want to pay higher electrical rates so that Elon Musk and all his tech bros, be it Zuckerberg, Bezos, whoever, get their data centers and essentially work out ways to replace you? Then you don't have a job and you're replaced by a bunch of data centers everywhere. And where do you think that's going to lead? In my opinion, all this stuff is completely unsustainable. And if you listen to what Taliko said in the beginning, we talked about it, is it's not that we don't have enough money or resources to feed the poor, right? We could solve poverty. It's more like we don't have enough to satisfy the greedy individuals like Mr. Musk. So I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this stuff. I do appreciate your time, and I'll catch you all in the next video.